we can do tonight. So I will call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone and everyone out in Zoom land. Have a short agenda, but an important one. And then we're going to be doing some code update after that. So let's get kicking on large events. I think all of these can qualify and can be kind of worked as one, probably. I think we'll probably have the same thoughts on most of them. The one easy one I think is the fishing derby. If we jump down to that one first, that I think they're fine with having it in September, and I think they just want to know, have some advance notice. So I think we should just tell them to. It would be best to move it to September if everyone's in agreement with that.
Yes,
that works for me. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead,
Sorry.
Heidi.
Just with the caveat that if for some reason, you know, there's no more vaccines and there's another outbreak, that it's subject to change.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, they'll understand that hopefully. But
Yeah, I'm sure
Yes.
that.
So
The only
If that
question I
happens
had
with-
was, oh, sorry, Dave.
no, go ahead.
I don't have a sense of the scale of that event. How many people actually come to the Derby?
Quite a few. They line up quite a bit around the reservoir, and yeah, a lot of people. They're spread out a bit, but a lot of people can show up. It's pretty popular.
Cool. I didn't realize that they stock the fish.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
So I guess they need lots of time in advance.
yeah, they need some time for sure. Yeah. So if everyone's all right on that, I'll have Jeff give Edmund and Carrie a call.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. We need to vote on that. I don't know why I jumped to that. I thought that was an easy one. Okay, end of meeting.
Yeah, that works.
The July 4th, we have it scheduled. We have locked in the fireworks for the 4th of July, but I don't see that happening at all. So I suggest we move it to Labor Day. And if it looks like it's going to be the same it is now, or we shouldn't have large gatherings, we'll just have to cancel.
What kind of time? I mean, I can't see that we're going to have a sizable portion of the population vaccinated by then. That's what sits in my mind. But what kind of lead time do we have to give to the fireworks folks? By when do we have to cancel?
I'd have to ask Jeff that. Definitely a month before.
So is it a decision?
I think just to cancel this one, we should do that as soon as possible. If other communities want to, that's usually the day they have fireworks. Labor Day, I don't know. Maybe people will be trying to do the same thing we are. But I think we'd probably have more flexibility there. But if Jeff gives them a call, I would ask them if, you know, we can cancel again. I mean, they have to be a bit understanding, or else we'll just cancel this and wait till next year. I think
Do you want to push it for like the Saturday before Labor Day, the 4th?
Yeah, that'd be fine. And then with the rain date, the 5th, and as we draw closer, I'll find out how much lead time they need to cancel, and we'll pick it up again. I just think if stuff does turn, and maybe they'll get their act together with vaccines, and maybe we'll be in a really nice place, then I think it'd be a great time to do a little celebrating in September. If not, so be it. But so
Yeah, there's still too many people dying. That's all. It's true. It's just true.
Yeah. So is everybody okay with that? As the plan, we'll see how much lead time we need, and when we get closer, we'll just have to cancel it.
yep.
It works for me. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
The next two kind of go together. I mean, both. Well, actually, they don't.
No.
The Wine and Food Fest is that's scheduled for September also, right? Or is that
August.
That's August. I think Lauren is on.
And the problem, I think, with that, before we let Lauren on, I think the problem with that is that she needs a lot of advance notice, you know, whereas we don't. We can just say, well, you know, we can plan ahead and play with it. Lauren has to really do advertising and put everything together, and needs, I would think, months in advance. We can ask her, but I just, you know, I'm not comfortable saying yes, and then because it would be hard for us to cancel, or it wouldn't be really right for us to cancel, you know, 2 months before, if she's doing all this planning and has done a bunch of marketing. So we're kind of I mean, if she says we can cancel 2 weeks before or a month before, that's one thing. But if we can't, I don't see it happening in August.
We're not getting any good guidance from the state either, and we don't think Kathleen had looked into that.
Yeah, I contacted the county health department today after Fran and I both tried to find our way around the state Department of Health website, and there was just conflicting information on that website. And I contacted the public information officer in the county health department, and her answer was it's tricky for what the numbers are. So if they're unsure, I'm not sure how anyone is supposed to find guidance, but she said she would get back to us with numbers. From the best I could see today, it's still at 25. The cap is still at 25.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's,
Go ahead, Fran.
no, I just think it's probably unfair to Lauren to say yes and then have to cut it. And we're just not in a position to say yes right now. We don't know. You know, this time last year, we would have sworn we'd be fine by now.
That's true.
And nowhere near it.
Right. And last year we definitely didn't let anything happen. And even though
Yeah.
like John Shear came up with like, very good plan, put a lot of time in it. We just, didn't feel we should be promoting gatherings in a time when, we'd want gatherings. Do we can hear from Lauren, but I really think that it's, we're not going to be able to, say yes and not cancel within a month or something. There's just no way we're going to be able to accommodate her with a cancellation. If you want to patch Lauren in, that's fine.
Michael?
She's coming.
She just has to unmute herself. I don't control that.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm on. Am I on?
You are.
Hi. Okay, I was listening to what you were saying about the 25, but it seems like the virus is going down, and I think by August we should be okay. When will you find out from the state or whoever you contacted? How soon will you be able to find out from them?
See, I think that's the problem. I don't think anyone has that answer, and no one really knows what's going to happen. And for us to give you the okay, it could be that it could flare back up and we won't be comfortable in having a large events. So we really don't know. I mean, right now it could be going down or leveling off, or it could be back up again next month and all the new strands coming out. I don't think we know where we're going to be.
So do you think by April we should know something?
I don't think so, honestly. No.
Well, even if we knew by April, Lauren, there's so many factors that could spike numbers again before. There need to be more people in the population vaccinated before things stabilize. So it's hard to say even in April that August will be fine.
Okay, no, because I was trying to do it like how the Cold Springs, the farmers market at Boscobel, they do that. I was gonna do it similar to that setup.
Could you maybe describe a little more what you mean?
Farmers market at Boscobel, they have the tents are outside, and then they have 6 feet apart with the people purchasing stuff, and they have the only let like 3 people to purchase stuff at one time at one store. So that's the way they were setting up for even the one in Pleasantville, they do the same thing. It's outdoors, farmers, have the tents outside, and they let a few people in, and once they purchase, they leave and they let more people in.
So you would propose being at a gate?
Yes.
And letting X number of people in?
Yes, because what they did, because I'm going to have the security guards checking people, doing the testing, making sure they're okay as far as
temperatures.
Yeah.
Lauren, don't you set up tables or places for people to sit and eat? Isn't that one of the features of the fest?
Yes, but because of the COVID thing, I was thinking about not doing that because We don't want a lot of, unless we do it like the restaurant. The restaurant, when they have the outside tables set up, they have people, unless you're within that family, you can sit at the table. But if you're not, then the tables will be set up 6 feet apart. And that's it, you know. And we wouldn't have any music or anything just to keep people, if it gets worse, that is. But I doubt it. I think everything should be fine by August.
We said that last year.
Huh?
Yeah,
I said, we said that last year. How many vendors were you planning on having, Lauren?
We still have some vendors that stayed on, they didn't want their refund. We have like 12 vendors so far that stayed up, you know, they wanted to be there this year.
What's the maximum for vendors do you usually have?
I usually have like, 15 wineries and distilleries, and ciders, 15 in one. And I have like the food vendors. I usually have like 5 food vendors, and then sometimes, and I have like 10 arts and crafts. But again, I'll cut that down because of the outdoor, you know.
Lauren, why don't you give us more details on how you're limiting things, like how many alcohol, cider, beer, food, arts and crafts, and how many tables you'd be expecting to set up.
Okay.
Okay, and whether or not you're going to be limiting tickets.
Yeah,
how many-
well, most of the time the people, they'll come in like usually 300, and I wanted to set it up, say, okay, starts at 11, so 11 to like 2 o'clock. They can stay, and then 2 to 6 or whatever. I don't know, but I'm gonna work on that. Probably like stay for 3 hours and next 3 hours.
So it'd be 150 people over 3 hours? Is that
No, 300 people each 3 hours.
okay?
They'll have,
And how do you get
enough space to taste.
how do you get the people out? The first 300, how do you get them out?
We're gonna close it down for
Okay.
half an hour to get people out.
So maybe you could send us a write-up on how you plan to manage that?
Yes, I will.
I
will.
I don't think we should drag, I personally, we can take a vote now, but I really don't want to drag this out and get you giving us more and more information. Last year, John Shear gave us he gave us a brochure on everything, how he was going to, you know, have different lines and everything. And it was, you know, well thought out. And it's like, and we didn't agree on that. I just don't see.
Well, last year was horrible though compared to this year.
It's still horrible.
Horrible.
Maybe people don't want to think that it is, but it really is the same as it was last year, pretty much. I mean, I think we're in the same spot. I mean, personally, I don't want to just. I love working with you. I'd love to see you have it there. I just think we should not have
Yeah,
any.
I understand that. No, I was just saying that maybe in April you could look back on it and, you know, see where we are as far as.
Personally, a few months away. I would not be comfortable in April unless a miracle happened. I don't know how everyone else feels. I don't think, I just don't feel like we should be promoting gatherings, especially 300 people.
I mean, if magically, you know, millions of vaccines turn up, then I'd be happy to reconsider in April. But otherwise, I think, yeah, there's just.
I think they did. The vaccines turned up this morning. A whole lot of vaccines for New York State.
And not enough.
Yeah.
Not enough yet.
I think April is too soon and still too far away from August for us to make a decision on what life is going to be like in August.
Ruth Ann has had her hand up for a while. Just
Who is that?
Ruth Ann is here.
Ruth Ann is here.
Hey, Ruth Ann.
I think you're muted. Or
No. She's not.
But then you're not coming through.
yeah, you have no sound.
Not hear me?
Now we can.
Slightly, yes, slightly.
Yeah, my original question was how many total tickets would be sold? And I think Laura answered that was 600. I agree with Dave in a way that we have to be really careful about the message that we're saying to people who live in Cold Spring, who don't go to restaurants and don't go, gather in groups. And my other point was vaccinations. It's not going to happen. Right? At the rate people are going, raise your hand if you got a vaccination if you're over 65. There you go.
Just one. Fran's been lucky.
Okay. My husband and I are in our 70s, and we're going to get one at the end of March. So I think that April we're going to have enough people vaccinated, is not realistic to make a decision. I think big, looking at smaller group activities, even like the fishing derby, and the scouts and things, I think, that 25 limit.
Okay.
Laura, I love having you in town. I think it's wonderful to use the facilities. That's why they're there. But I mean, if we want to wait to April to make a decision, but I hate to keep on, like Dave says, stringing it along and then, finally having to say no at some point.
Okay. I will get back to you.
I'm sorry, Lauren. I think Dave's point was getting more information in another week or two isn't going to change our.
Yes, I understand.
Okay,
Now,
so
so
there's,
I get back to you with what I'm going to do as far as canceling or whatever.
How much time do you need so you can cancel without upsetting all of your vendors? How long does it
Well,
take you to organize?
I have, they usually a month. I can tell them a month ahead.
so you could tell them in July that it's canceled.
Right, exactly.
And refund anyone who's bought their tickets. I mean, is
Right. Well, I haven't set up any tickets as yet. So I haven't any tickets sold as yet.
that
So I
right?
haven't done that.
And what about marketing? What about marketing and getting?
Marketing is basically the same people who, like Amtrak, they said they will, they're still, they will, I can wait 2 months prior to the event for marketing because they're already on board from last year. So that's not a problem.
So maybe we could revisit in June. June seems, I mean, I am skeptical that we're going to have mass vaccination before June, but I'd be willing if Lauren is willing, I would be willing to look at the question again in June. I think for the benefit of the public, the other person speaking was Ruth Ann Cullinan Barr, who's the chair of our recreation committee.
I think comparing it to the farmer's market is, I understand where you're going, but the farmer's market is food and that would be considered essential. I'm not sure of a wine and food festival is considered essential. So there's different regulations on how those things line up also.
And I think from one of the issues is that, there are people who are still not able to, go to family funerals and we're telling you, don't see your grandparents. And we have all these restrictions that we've been really pushing to try and keep people safe. And it's just really a little too soon to be able to say, yes, we're going to do a festival when we can't even tell people, it's safe to hang out with your friends. So I'm also happy to revisit in June.
Yes.
If there's a, who knows, I would love
exactly.
But it's sounding, I think it's sounding like it's pretty unlikely. But I guess you never know. We can be optimistic.
Yeah.
Hope springs eternal.
We'll revisit in June.
Okay.
I don't want, the thing that I don't want is you to invest money in marketing and stuff and then have to, cancel and you lose that money. So
right.
Trying to look after everybody here. And like Heidi just said, we'd love to have you. So let's try in June and keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Bye, Lauren.
Good to see you again. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye now.
Okay, next up is C Street, which is, do they start in September or is it October?
October.
Over.
October. So
Come
I don't
on.
know how much lead time they need. Do you want to give them a call, Marie, and see what their plans are, or have you contacted them?
When last I spoke with them, they just didn't know yet, but I can call them tomorrow. The question that they'll have is, are we willing to entertain them visiting?
Well, I think that would be the same with everyone. Is like, how much time do you need for marketing, and when is the cutoff date? You know, we'll entertain it if it's, closer to October, but for the next few months, definitely not.
What I was thinking we might want them to do is to cut down the number of people on the boats.
Oh, that's also something we could ask, or have one boat.
Right, right.
I think it's
And I
the
was-
number of people at one time, though, that we don't want. I think.
Yes.
Sorry?
Marie, I think, Marie, you were right in terms of cutting down on the number of people per boat, because it's the crowding and the influx that makes it bad, I think. So one boat versus two boat, I think, is not as big of a deal as much as full capacity versus half capacity.
Do you know what their cutoff is in terms of the number of people they can put on a boat in order to make money? I mean, I know they're going to make money, but I'm sure they have a cutoff number.
Yeah, a minimum number.
They've never discussed that with me, what their P&L looks like. They have the larger capacity boat now, which they had last year, so they can seat significantly more people. But I have never had the P&L discussion with them.
I think part of this depends on exactly how our spring and summer season goes, because when I think about the crowds we had almost every day last summer, and especially on the weekends, when I think about adding the C Street crowds to that, I just can't even imagine.
And then on the other hand, the businesses depend on the C Street to get them through the winter. And that's
Yeah.
a big thing.
Absolutely.
The businesses will tell you that, the business from this C Street and the crowds that they get in the fall help them at times like this when there's no business.
Well, that's why I'm saying maybe we need to see a bit how, I mean, maybe last summer was unusual and people were just so stir crazy after the spring, but now we've been living with this for a year. Maybe the crowds will be different. I don't know, but I think it's hard to make a decision, I think, to say no to C Street now for October until we see what the crowds are going to be like. If they have flexibility in their own planning to give a little more time, as we did for Lauren, I'd be interested to see where we are in June.
I think also we need to think about what the restaurant regulations are going to be, because that's always been a huge part of C Street, is that it gives a lot of business to the restaurants, and they always have, sort of more people even than there are seats. And if restaurants are still only at, 25% capacity or whatever it is that they're allowed to be, that's definitely going to have an effect too. And I will also say, as a Main Street business owner, the crowds that we were seeing in the summer, fall, some of those days it was as much as a C Street outpouring, just the sheer numbers of people coming. But I do think we want to keep the restaurant numbers in mind and what they're going to be allowed to handle.
The restaurants can't handle C Street at all anyway.
Well, yeah, and then
I think it's the other business owners that really profit from it, because the restaurants have a capacity and they're overwhelmed from everything I've heard. Yeah. One
of the pluses of COVID has been that the restaurants have moved outside in some cases in very good fashion. The Riverview has massive space outside, which they never would have had before. I think Catherine's has space outside. A few of them have space outside, which gives them a little bit more capacity to make up for what they can't put inside. So there's that plus, but I'm not sure that that's going to make up enough of it.
Yeah, I think most places have, like 4 or 5 tables outside.
Well, one thing to consider is we shut down the village and don't let anyone come in, because we make $20,000 from C Street, which we don't see anymore in revenue. And if you have 400 people that are coming in and that's all there are, and they're willing to spend money, maybe it's something we should really consider. We can have the whole street set up for vendors and restaurants.
I
That'd be
actually think
nice.
that's kind of a brilliant idea, to think about a traffic-free Main Street in the busy summer months, maybe just the weekends.
And then,
I
and
know
then there's
that's
Metro North.
heresy. That's heresy saying that out loud, but to give people more space to stretch across the street, to give restaurants more capacity to set up tables. I mean, I think the reality is that a lot of villagers don't go down Main Street on the weekends because it's so nuts. So maybe that's something to talk about, to
The
get
And there's
public
Metro
thoughts on.
North.
But
Yeah,
if you live-
Bonnie. You can't get down with the train, Metro North.
Oh, good
Need
point.
them.
Never mind.
well, you can't, and if you live there, like I can't get out of from where I live without going
Main Street.
Yeah, so I think that's the issue. I think as a business owner, I love it, but as a resident, I think there's just too many people living there that depend on being able to go in and out. It's
I would agree. I mean,
Dave,
if we
can I-
did something, I wasn't suggesting we did it all the time, if at all. But maybe there would be 1 or 2 weekends, or one weekend or one day might be interesting. But I agree totally. The
pay
resident,
for the residents to go on vacation out of town for the weekends.
Sure.
we can use the 20,000 from the C Street.
Can
No,
I,
this is sounding like socialism, village board.
wait a-
Dangerous.
Okay, so back
Dave,
back-
can I,
Marie.
I'm sorry.
Well, we could have Marie just have them talk to C Street, see if
Yeah.
how much notice they do need. I think we could entertain it later on in June, the same way, we did with Lauren, and see if they would bring the capacity of the boat down, which I have a feeling they won't, because they invested all this money in a new boat, which I think, was it 500 or 600 people? They can.
So it's more than 600.
Wow.
Their current fleet does 500. The new boat is even larger.
Dave, can I just ask Ruth Ann a question, since we dragged her on this?
Sure.
Ruth Ann, at one point in one of your reports to the board, you said that the rec committee was talking about possibly not, considering not having big events in the fall. Is that anything you were talking about, or did I just misunderstand? Can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Ruth Ann. Can't hear you, Ruth Ann.
Nope.
Still nada.
How's that?
There,
There we go.
gotcha.
All right. I just think we have a lot of questions for any events. I think that C Street, number wise, again, it's the message we're going to give people. When kids can only go to school, 2 out of, every 2 days, out of 4 days, and then to have all those people come into town. I think it's a mixed message to the community members. And I think somebody made a good point about funerals and family gatherings, I think.
Ruth Ann, if I look at the number of people that get off each train on a Saturday or a Sunday, and the number of cars that come into the village where people get out of their cars and walk around, those numbers are pretty large as well.
Yeah, and then add to C Street.
Or C Street comes up,
Oh, I see what you're saying. The boat.
right? Unless we close up the village, we're going to have those numbers.
Well, I
But
think
sorry.
David did a good job last, spring when he tried that parking at Mayor's Park. Would that make up the difference? And would have a little bit more control.
Well, the
Thank you,
parking
Ruth
at
Ann.
Mayor's Park, I thought, was primarily hikers.
It was a mix. Most people went to the trails, but there were also people who walked back into the village because they were tired of driving around trying to find a spot.
What would be the percentage you'd say, 80, 20?
I mean, I don't know, maybe
The old
15
80-20
to 20,
rule.
maybe 15 to 20. I don't know. I mean, we were so busy counting the actual bodies moving in any direction, but maybe 15 is, what do you think, Dave? 15 to 20% went toward Main Street.
Yeah, it was low,
It was low.
maybe 10%. Anyway, I think we all agree that we don't want to have anything until the fall, and we need to give people, if we could wait till, August or September to tell someone, yes or no, that would be one thing, but not when people are marketing and putting money out and have to know in advance. That's a lot tougher. So, I mean, I would just find out from C Street when they can, when we can cancel, or tell them no, or how much lead time they need, and then just say yes or no then. And if it's the way it is now, it's like, I agree that we shouldn't be sending out the message we want gatherings. And, I don't think we'll be suffering if it's the same as last year, with or without C Street, that's for sure.
Right,
Well, other than C Street puts money in the village coffers.
Right,
And,
exactly.
and the other ones don't. One thing to keep in mind, C Street is a mass transportation. So they are used to having social distancing and masking in effect for their daily commutes. So they're in that business.
So they may have to, even if they come up, they may have to limit how many people can come on their boat if they have to socially distance.
It's possible, Fran.
Mhm.
And that's why I was thinking a lower number might be better for them and better for us. But I will talk to them.
Okay, so why don't we leave it there and see what Marie comes back with, and then make a decision from there.
sounds
And
good.
chances are they might not even be doing anything.
Well,
Who knows?
well, they are doing their commute runs.
Right.
I've been checking on that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Remind me, where are they based?
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
And all last fall and summer, they did their Nantucket and other runs.
Martha's Vineyard, I think they do.
Yeah,
They did, huh?
yeah, they continued with that throughout.
Mm.
How are the COVID numbers there?
I have no idea.
Not good.
I'm
Yes,
just saying that
Massachusetts numbers have been going up, but I don't know how the islands were, so.
okay, this was 6 to 8 months ago. So they were continuing with their excursion boats throughout the summer and fall.
Wow, I'm surprised.
Right. Well, and we don't have to get into it, but Martha's Vineyard was overwhelmed. I mean, they had a very high COVID rate, and I'm sure that didn't help. So just, we don't,
Okay.
we don't necessarily want to be like them.
Yes.
All right, so next we have the smaller 35 person wedding to discuss. We did get more information from them as we requested. I guess it's a matter of, once again, this is right around the corner. Do we want to entertain this any further, or is that also sending out a bad message? I don't know what's going to be there April 1st. I mean, if it's a nice day, it could be anything as far as the weather goes. It could be winter, could be summer, spring, who knows? But if it is spring and it's anything like last year, I don't know what we're going to do with tourism, and then having that at the same time on the dock, maybe not the best thing either. I think Ruthann also, Ruthann, did your board talk, or did the rec commission talk at all about events like the bandstand or in general?
When Jeff first sent this to me, I suggested that we run it by you because I didn't know what we're doing with gatherings larger than 25. And they're saying 9 people on the bandstand and 25 people outside of the bandstand in chairs observing the ceremony. And, I mean, not the bandstand, besides social distancing, you can't put more than 9 or 10 people up on the bandstand and stay 6 feet apart.
Right.
And then where would they put the chairs? On the backside, on the riverside, people standing on that because they couldn't put the chairs on the street.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry, I thought the idea was to put the chairs in the roadbed that goes around the bandstand.
So that means you can't drive around the bandstand.
Yeah, for
Right.
an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like 35 people when you have 9 in the bandstand, and she said 25 or less outside. I don't think that's a major problem. They're going to be told to be social distanced. It is probably a lot of family. It's a wedding. It's not like, I mean, the people coming to the ceremony, I would venture to say, are mostly family or relatives. So, I mean, talking about a small wedding versus talking about a 600 person food and wine festival. I think they're like two different things. And I don't really see an issue with this. It's going to be a half hour or less. There's going to be, you know, 9 people in the bandstand. And if the weather's bad, that's not our problem. She understands what she's getting into with having people outside. They'll hold an umbrella and they'll stand outside.
I just want to be sure that the number that we give her is compliant with what the executive order says. She's saying 35. I think that the order is 25 or fewer. So we need to get
But is that for,
clarity on that and then say, you know, it's subject to change. Because if the governor shuts it down to 10 people again, that's not up to us.
but that was that for interior? I don't think there were, if you kept 6 foot distance outside, I don't think there's a
Outside.
number.
That's part of
Yeah.
what seemed unclear today when I'm going through the website, whether the limit was 25 for outside.
I don't think it was ever that.
Yeah.
was it?
Okay, okay.
I think it was 50 is what I remember.
Really?
Well, maybe we should have that the response from the health department and just make sure that the family knows that that determination, that the max number is not up to the village board. The max number is up to the state health department, and she'll have to comply with whatever number is in place at the time.
I mean, you could have,
Sorry.
go ahead, Heidi.
I was gonna say I'm against it. I think it's just too soon to know, and it's too soon to. I think again, like Ruth Ann said, it's about sending a message, and you know, all of the restrictions we've been asking people to follow. Then to have a wedding, because if the weather's beautiful, there is going to be people. There are going to already be people down there, so it's not like it's just going to be the wedding party and no one else is going to be around. There's going to be people in town. And I just think it's too soon to know, you know, what the COVID numbers are going to look like in April. So I would vote against it.
So let me play devil's advocate. On Main Street on Sunday or on Sunday, there were at least a dozen people lined up on Main Street to get into Hudson Hills, standing outside. So we have already situations where people are trying to patronize the restaurants, and they're popular, and people line up. There's nowhere else for them to go. So I guess I don't see 25 people, 24 people, however many, around the bandstand for a half an hour as being a larger problem than a dozen or more people standing on Main Street attempting to get into one of the restaurants or to buy food from a cafe or cheese from a cheese shop or whatever.
Well, except it's exponentially more transmission possibilities with that many more people. But you're right. There are clumps of people on Main Street.
Yeah, and that's not something we have control over. I mean, people are going to come to Main Street. This is something we do have control over.
So if we say no to the wedding, and you go down to the river on the day, particularly of the wedding, and there's 50 people mulling around the bandstand, that's just not fair. You know, I mean, there's going to be groups of people down there. She's going to ask them to social distance. If it's a nice day, there are going to be people wandering all over the place down there anyway.
Right. But we can't close down the village, whereas we can say we're not ready to do weddings yet. That's what I'm saying is I know we can't close the gates and people are going to come, and for our local businesses, we do want them to come. But I think it's too soon to encourage events. And I also think that, you know, for the spring, we should be encouraging social distancing when people are waiting in line. So for things like Marie, you were talking about, if there's 25 people waiting in line, we should help businesses come up with a system so that people can distance. You know, the numbers are going down, and I think part of that is that people have been cautious. Some part of it is the vaccinations, but part of it is that people have been cautious. And I would just hate to see us get too comfortable and then see those numbers go back up. That being said, if everyone else, you know, feels that it's appropriate to have the wedding, you know, that's, you know, there's 5 of us, but I will just say that I think it's too soon.
So one thing we could do is we block off a half circle around the bandstand on the street side. We did that last year. We can do that again, and we could also block off the back side. I we had ropes and stands for when we had stuff at dockside. We could put that on the backside so that just the wedding party could be in say 20 feet or whatever we want to do, or just, you know, the driveway itself. We could bring this, the roping and with stands around that and set up that way and just have just that area just for the wedding parties. So it isn't like a total mix of everybody down at the bandstand.
We just have to be, if we're going to do that for this wedding party, we just have to make sure we're ready to do that every time.
Mhm.
Because it won't be the last wedding that's asked for
Right.
this season.
And we'd have to ask for more money because it's going to involve setting up, whereas
Staff time.
right now there's nothing, you know, nobody has to do anything really right now.
I think, does
Now,
Ruth
how-
Ann have her hand raised? I can't tell. Are you raising your hand, Ruth Ann?
Can't hear you.
Is that a yes or no? No.
She's trying.
I
Yeah.
think,
Can you hear me?
Barely.
Me now?
A little bit.
Okay, so I just checked the state website and social gatherings are at 10.
Indoors or
Inside.
outdoors?
Indoor and outdoor gatherings statewide at private residences will be limited to no more than 10.
At
Okay,
private
private
residence.
residences.
I know, but it was 25 in the public, correct?
That's what I thought today.
do you have a date on that, Ruth Ann, on that regulation? Because the regulations have changed. Is that dated?
That's November. That should be November.
It is.
Yeah.
It's November.
I'm fine either way. I understand Heidi's argument and I can see having it too. So either way, are people feeling strongly the others one way or the other?
I'd like to hear, I don't think Marie's told us. I'm interested in your view.
We discussed this a week ago and I was for it.
You were for it then. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm for it,
Okay.
at least the three of you.
I'm
I
against.
think that if you can accommodate for the staff effort that has to happen, and we can find a way to keep it segregated. I mean, life is happening. People are being married and being born and dying all despite it all. And people are allowed to do gatherings at cemeteries in a way that's socially distanced. And this is a life event in the same way. I just want us to be really clear that we're saying yes to a life event and not a social event. In the same, you know what I'm saying, as opposed to a beer fest or a wine fest.
Okay. And it's also a very small
Yes.
event. Dave, how much additional do you want to ask for?
I think we need another 100, which is nothing, I think.
Okay. All right.
And we need to check on the numbers if we're saying that we're going to do it, because it might be 25. We need to figure it out.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so all right, so we'll check the numbers, make sure that we're you know, following those rules, and tell them that it's an additional 100 because we're gonna have to set up. We'll block off the whole drive going around. They won't be able to park there or drive around. So if they park on the streets, they can come and we'll just, you know, we'll rope off the area for an hour.
Okay, I'll talk to Jeff about it tomorrow. And do you want me to also get in touch with Larry?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll get in touch with Bugsy because I'm gonna need help setting up stuff again.
Will Bugsy be doing the setup or do the police have to do it on Saturday morning?
They never did it before. Bugsy brought over the sawhorses and the 2x4s last, and we can get the other stuff from Bugsy. So I think if he has everything still.
Okay.
So before we get,
Oh, sorry.
before we tell Jeff to contact the wedding, Lena, is it? We'll check with Bugsy and Larry and make sure it's okay with them, or that they have people to actually be on duty or help us. I mean,
Okay.
if they can't, then they won't be able to move ahead.
Okay.
Kathleen, were you saying something? I didn't mean to cut you.
Oh, I was going to ask if what we put out for stanchions and rope is not hideous for the bride. do we have decent looking
It's
stanchions?
hideous.
Yeah, we did.
We'll
Yeah.
put white ribbons on them.
It's yellow
Not
rope.
to have that beautiful vista and sawhorses.
That is the front. We might have enough of that, the other, to do both sides. Not sure, but
Maybe the town has some we could borrow. I don't know.
we'll make it pretty. But the rope and stuff we used at dockside for the weddings, and it went from the driveway all the way to the river. So
Cool.
we should have enough. Okay, I think is that it for our events?
I think so.
Ruth Ann, when are you guys meeting again? Can't hear you, sorry.
I told the committee.
What was that?
What was that? Can you hear that one? No? How's that?
Yes.
Okay. We're not going to meet again until next month because we haven't really had much to do. Although now with the budget stuff that I have to do, we're just communicating by email.
Mhm.
So I let them know about tonight's meeting if anybody had any questions, and I'll fill them in about what's happened now, tomorrow.
Okay, and if you want to make a recommendation, this is like, the bandstand's really under your purview. And so it's like, like the smaller events. I mean, that's the way it's been. So I don't want to be.
Yeah, I think we just have to follow, all of the things that people have talked about just now. But this is a live event. It's a one-time small group, a half an hour. And if we have to have staff there, like you're suggesting, then we can make sure that people understand that this is, a COVID responsible event, I missed on the fishing derby. Did you approve the fishing derby?
We moved it off to September. They said that they'd be fine with either when Edmund Carey talked to Jeff. That's what it sounded like. So
I know that the Scouts want to talk about having their end of the year event at the pavilion. So I guess we'll follow the 25 people rule in discussing it with them at
okay.
this point.
And when is that?
Sometime in the springtime. They usually have a move up day, the different sections move up. These are the Girl Scouts. So I don't know how they can do it with just 25 people unless they do it in sections.
Right.
We have to confirm that 25 is the number for outside, so we've got to.
Okay, that'd be a good thing to know, because, I think we want to be, as someone said, we want to be consistent in what people see going on in the village.
Yeah.
I mean, the pavilion is a much larger area, to separate.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay, thank you. Thanks
All right.
everyone for your input on this.
Good night.
Night, Ruth Ann.
Night, Finn.
Good night, Ruth Ann. Thank you. Good night.
Okay, before anything else from the board, before I'll see if anyone in public would like to ask any questions.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Okay, anybody raising their hand out there? Michael?
I don't see anyone with their hand up.
Okay. Okay, then we will move into our wonderful code update. Seems like it's been a while. Not long enough, but so for all the viewers that may be just tuning in for the first time, we're just reviewing the codes, making changes and stuff, getting it ready for a public hearing. At the end of and during the discussion, we won't be taking any public comment, but you'll have ample time when we present it to the public in a draft form. So that said, everyone's definitely welcome to stay tuned, and we'll start up with the short-term rentals once again.
Oh, we're not finished with this yet?
I don't know. Let's kill it one way or the other.
Let's kill it tonight.
What do we have left on this tonight?
I don't remember.
Most of what I see is changes in the word dwelling to residence. So we're going to start down in the definitions 100-2.
Okay, I just need to get it open.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me know, everybody, when we're on.
Okay, I'm almost there.
Come on.
Okay, all right. The first adjustment I see is 100-2, the definition of bedroom. A room in a residence rather than a room in a dwelling. And that same change goes straight through the chapter, and we took out the definition of dwelling. And this was Marie. Marie, do you want to speak on this, or are we just good with it?
Yeah, well, I forwarded to all of you the recommendation that Charlotte made. So based upon a recommendation, we've removed the word dwelling and replaced it with the word residence, which was her recommendation, or a
Okay.
replacement word.
Everybody good?
Just
I'm
making
good with all the changes. I'm not really fond of the definition of place where one lives, but changing the residence, I'm fine with.
Okay, so changing with
I
residence.
don't know if place where one lives is a little broad or.
You know, I saw your comment on that, and I tried to find a better definition, and I couldn't find one.
I mean, if everyone else is fine with it, whatever, I guess it's
sort of awkward, but it serves the purpose, I guess.
everyone else okay with it? I'm not
Definition of residence.
Light over.
I mean, I'm not sure what you would say otherwise.
Mhm.
I don't know, it just seemed broad, a place where one lives. Anyway, that's fine. Let's move ahead.
Okay, I moved something around in that definition. It did say a place where one lives, and a residence can be composed of only one short-term rental. I reworded that to only one short-term rental unit will be allowed in each residence. Is that correct? Is that okay?
So make it a residence, allowed in a residence.
Okay.
Right, that's good.
Okay. Okay, so short-term rental, we're changing it from a residential dwelling to a residence. Okay, the question is, Dave, you were adding the definition of STR permit. Are we adding a definition for STR permit? Marie,
I guess we don't really have to, I guess. I don't know what my thought was when I wrote that, but I got it there, so.
Don't think anymore. Okay, I'm just going to continue to approve. Stop. I'm going to approve all the residents.
I
I'm
tell my
sorry,
brain
Dave.
that every day, and it doesn't listen.
It doesn't listen.
No.
The change from dwelling to residence, I'm just going to go down and approve. Okay, now we're into the intersections and the corners.
Yep.
Okay. We've moved this around 10 times. It's in I think we're in 100-3I. No more than one STR permit may be allowed for all properties located at intersections of 2 or more streets. And then it says C100.
I don't know why it can't be, or what, why can't it be no more than one SDR is permitted at an intersection or regardless?
The problem is that some intersections may have intersections of streets where there are no STRs permitted.
So that would, but we labeled where you can have them, so they wouldn't be able to have them on their streets anyway.
Well, I could argue that.
You're frozen. Yes.
We lost you.
Come on, you can do it.
What's she gonna argue?
Welcome
Ray, are you
to.
with us?
No, I think we lost her.
I think she wasn't smoking.
Bye, Marie.
She's probably gonna have to get out and get back in.
I would think, if you only allow one at an intersection, and we've labeled the streets where you can have one, why would that matter? I don't understand how that.
I know. I think we just need to clarify it. No more than one STR permit will be allowed for all properties located at the intersections of 2 or more streets. we need to just add something to qualify it.
Well, it's not an intersection unless it is two or more streets coming
Right.
together. I think that's kind of,
Right.
I don't think you need to say define intersection. It can't be an intersection if it's not two or more streets.
Right. I agree totally with that. And if you can't have it because of the way we've set it up and we've shown where they're allowed, then why would someone then think they could have one on that corner of a street that we're not allowing it on?
Marie just lost her Wi-Fi. See if she can call in.
It's apparently out in big chunks of the village right now.
I'm gonna see if she can call in. Is there a number?
You want to skip over that for now and see if she comes in, and does the rest just clean up?
Yeah. The rest of it is probably just cleanup. Let me just see. Give me a second to find a phone number for her to call in for.
Okay.
Does anybody know the phone number on this?
Not offhand, no.
Mommy, I can pull it up.
It's on, yeah, it's on the,
Jeff?
Marie's in the process of joining again.
Okay,
it's
She's
there, yeah.
almost there.
I have it now, but I guess she's already.
You're muted, Marie.
There you are, but you're muted.
You're muted. Still muted.
Hi, Dave.
She's getting there. Hi there. I was trying to get you the phone number, but I couldn't
Well,
get
we
to
don't
it.
get that impatient when other people are there and we're telling them they're muted. Now calm down.
Ah!
I think somebody said parts of the village Wi-Fi is down, so. Although I'm not down, and I think we have the same system. Anyway, back to no more than one STR permit may be allowed for all properties located at intersections. We're going to take out of two or more streets. And then we want to qualify it to say, provided that an STR is allowed on those streets or something to that effect.
Yeah, I think we need to say that.
I don't understand why you'd have to say that. But if everyone thinks,
I think it makes it clearer.
It renders it explicit.
but you can't have it on the other street. If you can't have it on, if you can't have it on one of the streets and we've labeled them, well, why would you think you could have one there?
No, well, the one
I'm
STR
fine with adding it if it moves us along.
Yeah,
I think
I
there's-
will too. I'm fine with that too.
All right. All right.
Write a paragraph, make it clear.
Nope, we're not gonna do that. Okay.
Come on.
Two or more streets. Okay, we'll get back to that. I'll write something in there. That's on. That comes out.
At an intersection where STRs are permitted on streets, whatever.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, I'm leaving that for the time being. Marie, should this be, it says C100.13, shouldn't it be -13? Or not?
Yes, it should be, Fran.
Okay, that takes care of that. That's that. Okay, next thing down. We were going to look into this. It says on properties owned by corporations, LLCs, et cetera, cannot be used as STRs, the et cetera. We couldn't find anything else that would fill that in. So I suggested adding in other such entities. Does that make sense?
Sounds good.
Sure.
Okay. Now we are at the host or agent must live in the village. We're going to take this out.
I think we should.
Which section are you looking at? I'm sorry, Fran.
I'm
I'm
sorry,
trying to-
we are
Q.
100-3 and it's at Q.
Okay. It's too
The
far down.
host or
Thank you.
agent must live within the boundary of the village at the time the STR is occupied. We were going to take this out because I don't think it's necessary. I think Dave didn't think it was necessary, provided that they can respond within 20 minutes. So we're okay taking this out? Must live
Speaking
within.
and shaking.
Say it again, Dave? Mike?
Get myself
No.
back organized and get some
Michael, your
dinner.
microphone's on.
Michael? There we
there.
go. Okay, so we're taking out must live within the boundaries of the village, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they could be 20 minutes out and be outside of the village.
Right. Okay. Within 20 minutes, 20, okay, that takes care of that. Moving down, moving down. Okay. I just renumbered this because I thought this reference was wrong. We're at 100-6C, and it refers to 100.3I. I changed it to H.
Yes, I checked it out, Fran, you're right.
Okay, and 100.3I instead of J. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, well, I think we moved something around and had to cross-reference. 100.7 regulations.
Is that supposed to be 100-60? No.
Yeah, what do we have? We have points and we have dashes. The points all need to go to,
Yeah, so under 100-6.
So yeah.
Yeah, under, there, and then also under E.
yeah, we got back and forth on this one. Thanks, Heidi.
Mhm.
I know there's a few other of those around. Okay,
fine.
100-7. B, 2 adults and 1 child per bedroom and a maximum of 4 adults and 4 children per the entire residence. We're okay with residents.
Where
No
are we?
exterior-
Sorry, which one is that?
100-7B and C. No exterior lighting of the residence shall be permitted from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. We're changing from dwelling to residence.
On B, can we just throw in a random number for child so it's not like a grown person and someone says it's a child? I know we're not going to go out and say, are you 12 or 11 or whatever, but I think we should say 11 or under.
12 and under is the usual cutoff. for
Right.
kid
So
things.
can we do that?
Under, whoops, it helps if I'm in the right place.
Really? No teens?
What's
Well,
that?
like that's when you start paying on Metro North and paying for most. That's when you start paying the adult fare is 12 and 12 and up. They're over 12, right?
Work okay, under 12 years of age. 2
Thank
adults and 1 child under 12 years of age are allowed per bedroom.
And under C for lighting. What about Christmas?
Oh, potty pooper. I'm sorry, where are we?
No exterior lighting of the residence shall be permitted. What about Christmas lights?
Well,
Yeah, we have to have Christmas lights or
You
Valentine's
have to
lights.
turn them off at 10 o'clock.
All right.
Mine go off in the morning.
This is exterior lighting of the residence, not necessarily
decorative.
decorations. Yeah. And so my thinking here is these are spotlights or,
Installed lights.
yeah, thank you.
Well, okay, where are we? We're at 100,
107C.
107C. So do we need to add anything to that definition?
I think we're good on that.
I think we're good. We're
Okay.
not gonna.
I'm just causing trouble.
Yeah, but I like Christmas lights.
I know. I feel like everybody does.
Okay, so we're back to the one part. I guess we got everything. Did we get everything? We just have to add something to that paragraph about the corners.
No, we
Yeah.
don't. I thought we ended that. I thought we
But
finished it.
I didn't write something. We did end the discussion, but I have to write something.
No, we're going to put it, we're going to clarify it. Okay, so although, God, I think I'm going to lose my internet again. There are 2 more things that have to be done. 3 more. I sent you all the updated master fee schedule today with the 2 rows that identify the fees. One is a permit, one is an application fee, and the other is the permit fee. That's one thing. The second thing, I'm waiting for John to respond to the question about the secret form. And I don't know how quickly he'll be able to get back to me on that. If I don't hear from him in a day, I'm going to go to Ted Fink on that. And the third is I have not gotten confirmation back yet from the planning board on the document. So until that happens, we're not ready to set a date.
So it has been submitted to the planning board?
It's been to the planning board for a while.
Okay. And can you remind me, I can't remember what the question was that we had about the seeker form.
Sure, it's C33.
What is C33?
That's the question.
Thanks, Marie.
I'm
C-
pretty much there as
C-
much.
C3 is zoning. The
Oh,
way,
item C3 on the form. Got it.
yes. And the way it is written, it talks about whether or not you're making a change to zoning.
Okay.
So we are making a change to zoning. I'm
Yeah.
assuming you've all read through 134.
Yes.
That's a part of this proposal. So the changes to 134 would be a change to zoning. And there is the way the form and the questions are written, it is not clear how you're supposed to handle this if you're taking something out of zoning and putting it in a different category.
Got it.
So that's the question for John.
Okay.
Or Ted.
I think you should go to Ted on this because John is just overwhelmed. He's not getting anything done. He's not replying. He's working on 2 lawsuits that are against us right now, or 3, and maybe a potential another one coming. So he's just said he's overwhelmed in everything in the other municipalities. So if Ted has an answer, I would go to Ted.
Okay, I'll talk to Ted
If you're
tomorrow.
comfortable with that.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
I haven't been able to get, John doesn't answer his phone sometimes now, which is really unusual.
I didn't see the master fee schedule until late in the day, so I still have to look at that.
So the application fee is $25. It's non-refundable, and the permit fee is $250. It's annual, and 50% will be refunded if you fail your inspection.
Which
Okay.
just matches what we have in the text.
So that just has to be approved, and then the old 134 has to be ready to go. We
Yeah.
tentatively have, according to the schedule that Jeff gave us, I believe on Thursday, we're supposed to be trying to set a date for the public hearing, if we're
And
anywhere
until-
there.
And until I get
Okay.
those answered, we can't set a date.
Okay, so other than that, our work on this, other than adding a little line about the corner lots, this is done.
But the one thing on the fee schedule, if you fail the inspection, I think it should be if you fail the inspection and don't mitigate or whatever the word is within so many days. I mean, because if somebody fails and it's because they don't have a carbon detector, I think they should be able to have a chance to put a carbon detector in and not lose $125.
And fail to mitigate or fail to meet,
Whatever it is, that's not the right word. But
that's not the right word.
So if they fail the
Fail to
inspection,
comply.
right, yeah.
if they fail the inspection and within a week fix what Charlotte says is not right, they're still in the running for that year. They don't have to pay anything else, right?
Yeah, because they've already been they've already won the lottery, so to speak. So the next step was they'd have to get a permit. I mean, they'd have to get, the inspection and pass that. So if they go and they don't pass it for like something simple like a smoke detector, I think that they should be given a little bit of time to actually, fix that and still stay in. I don't think it should be, sorry, you lose it.
Okay, so we have to look at the master fee schedule and make comments on that.
Yeah, I didn't have time to look at it either.
Okay,
Okay.
by Thursday. Okay, shall we move on to fences?
Love the fence.
Fences. Chapter 42. Okay, so we're adding a definition for deer fences is the first thing we have.
What
Fence
section are you starting with?
I'm sorry, chapter 42, we're just picking up
Oh,
where
in
the
the
comments,
definitions part. Yeah.
yeah, where the comments are.
Dave, you had said that you were rethinking deer fences.
Yeah, I don't know if we want, I was just thinking about them, they are kind of permanent in the front yard. I think that I was thinking maybe it should be just backyards and side yards.
That deer fencing should be allowed only in the back
Yeah.
and the side?
Mhm.
I haven't seen anybody install it in the front except
Right.
a row that has a house that has a huge row of ewes.
All right, so we're leaving the definition in, right? In deer fence, a fence composed of posts and plastic or metal mesh. Is that okay for a definition?
Put a comma after the posts, if you would, Fran.
Sure, we can do that. Okay, definitions in. Moving on. Okay. Okay, here we are. We're on section 42-3F. Okay, it's highlighted at all street intersections. Let me see.
I'm having a hard time finding fences on my list here for some reason. But
It's
go ahead.
42, okay. It's called property line fences.
Property line fences
Yeah.
and walls.
Look under property line.
V2.
Okay, so F,
Right before STRs, Dave. Right to the left of STRs.
Okay. Yeah, I got it now.
okey-doke. Okay, so we're at 100, I'm sorry, 42-3F. We're talking about,
If
all
everyone's
street-
fine with, I just thought it was complicated. If everyone's fine with this and it's in other, I don't care. Again, I'm fine with moving it ahead. I have no idea what
Just
they're
read it
talking
again.
about, and I'm a contractor, so it either says something about my contracting skills or my understanding of math.
okay, oh, this was the, okay. The street intersections, the obstruction, 30 inches above the height. And I just figured you guys knew what it was all about.
Why
I'm good with
why
it.
30?
Yeah, we're good with that. This is the
Why
current
30
law.
and
This is the current law.
so why 30 inches? I'm still,
It provides a sight line.
okay, 2.5 feet is the sight line.
If you're sitting in a car.
Yes, it provides you with sight past the intersection.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, G, height of fences. Remember this? Okay, Dave added yesterday or the day before, I'd like to discuss the height of hedges. In the natural state, many hedges planted exceed 6 feet. Okay, I think I was one of the people who said I thought hedges should be the same size as fences, and I know that has never been in the law. Hedges were the things people put up when they wanted to put bigger than a 4-foot fence and couldn't, right? They put a hedge and let it grow to 8 feet, and that would be fine. So do we want to include the height of hedges or not in this fence thing?
I just want to read Dave's comment again.
The way it's written, it includes hedges.
Right.
So you couldn't have a hedge over 4 foot in
Yep.
front or side.
And
or front yard.
up until now, the village has always been able to do that, right? Your hedges had no regulation.
I guess I was
Unlike-
thinking actually more about backyards because people have 8 foot, or forsythia or whatever they grow and,
And what is the objection? I just need to, I'm just trying to understand, what's the objection to someone having tall greenery in their,
Oh, I
Yeah.
don't. That's my point. I think that right now, the way it is, hedges are fences in our definition. So whatever we're saying for fences would, unless we break that out, would go for hedges also.
I personally think that hedges should be left at whatever height they grow. Some,
I agree.
I mean, realistically, we're not going to enforce people cutting hedges realistically. And two, did I say A, B? I don't know. The second thing is some shrubs are, like, you think about forsythia, they are meant to grow that high, and are odd when they get lobbed off. So I don't see it as different than a tree.
I mean, I think I was one of the ones who fought to put hedges in with fences because, you know, I mean, if we're talking about site 4-foot fences around the front and around the sides and everything else, and suddenly somebody puts up an 8-foot hedge on the side of their house or at the front of their house. And there's, I mean, the properties behind Food Town have huge hedges.
I mean, if I
Yeah.
lived behind Food Town, I'd want the capacity for tall hedges too. I mean, one thing to think about with hedges, a fence is a solid object. Sometimes fences have spaces between the pickets and sometimes they don't. With hedges, you're always going to get light and you're always going to get light passing through, and some visibility passing through. It's not a solid object. I just think it goes too far to tell people how high their hedges can be.
Okay,
I think I wrote in my email a number of places that had them, like you're saying. There's like the corner of Belvedere and Morris Avenue. There's Scott Monroe's just past Grandview, you know, along the side of, you know, that road, you know,
There's a whole-
used for, you know, also for a buffer from traffic.
Sure,
So
the house behind us on Main Street has very tall yews. When the deer don't decimate them, they have very tall yew to use to keep traffic sound down. Which
So
I'm grateful.
I think that, so my suggestion is to remove hedges from the definition of fence.
Right, and if we do that, then we have to like go through this chapter again and see where we stand with it, but I'm fine with it if we want to remove hedges from the definition of fence and leave fences. Fences will then be, for the purpose of this chapter, walls, gates. It currently says walls, gates, and hedges will be considered fences, so it should just say walls and gates will be considered fences.
The only thing that I think might be of value to consider before we pull out is the question of placement back from a foot back from the property line. Because you could, if you don't say how far back from the property line, you could then plant a row of tall things on the property line and then have it extending into your neighbor's yard. I mean, it's hard,
on the
with
sidewalk.
hedges, they extend anyway. Say that, Fran, again?
Or they extend onto the sidewalk, which causes
Yeah.
a problem, and there's a lot of that.
But I think we take care of that with our restrictions in whatever the other chapter is,
Yeah, I think in
maintaining.
sidewalks, I think it's addressed there.
Okay.
So we're gonna remove
I have to go
hedges.
back.
All right, I'm just gonna put a note for,
Okay,
No.
we can remove hedges, fine with me.
Fine with me.
okay, so we'll, Marie, you want, you and I to take a look at this and pull hedges out of here?
Yes,
And then
yes.
see where
great.
else.
I'll
Okay,
talk to you tomorrow on that, Fran.
okay. Okay, so we'll see where else that has to be adjusted. 42-3 regulations, we are now at height of fences unless otherwise specified below, and I believe it means above, right?
It actually should, it's both, above and below,
Within this chapter.
unless otherwise specified, right, within this chapter, yeah.
I'm sorry, I've lost track of which sentence you're in.
G, G. height of
F,
fences.
I'm sorry, G.
42-3.
Unless other,
Got it, yep.
and I could spell better, it would be nice.
Oh, I don't know, I sort of like that one.
Chapter.
You like the double A's? Okay, height of fences unless otherwise specified within this chapter or unless otherwise directed by the planning board, shall be as follows. Here we go. Front yard not to exceed 4 feet, side yard from the front property line to the rear of the building, not to exceed 4 feet. Is that what we decided on?
I think we should add
And then-
my little colored diagram.
I think the
I
color
like your little color diagrams.
I think it makes it clear. There's no way you're gonna dispute it.
I mean, we can add them as an addendum, right? See,
I don't know why it couldn't be why couldn't it be in the text right underneath number
Yeah.
5?
does that make it awkward to put it in the text?
No,
Makes it easier, right? You're not sending someone to some other section to find it. It's right there. And you could do it in shades of gray rather than color, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if
I
you're
like
worried about
color.
people. I mean, yeah.
Is it generally done that, pictures and maps and graphs and all that kind of stuff are in the middle, or do we usually put them towards the end?
I've seen a number of them where, like, well, one was the corner question we had, the site, you know, visibility in corners. I've seen them for the height of buildings, measuring from the grade and showing how that's done. They'll have a diagram of the house with, you know, the measures and where you measure from. So it's definitely done.
I would still advocate for using the site triangle diagram as well. I thought those two diagrams took away all confusion on those 2 points where even the 5 of us keep getting wrapped in circles.
I would be fine with that also. It's just adding another piece of information.
And
Okay,
that's this chapter, right? That's up higher. We just talked about it. The site triangle bit. Oh,
Yeah.
here, F.
So you asked the question, are diagrams done? The answer is no. There are no diagrams in our code.
No, but there are plenty of, I mean, I saw those diagrams looking at fence codes in other villages. I don't know why we couldn't, why we would hesitate to do it. Just because it's not, if it helps public understanding, why not add it?
I agree.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know what generally accepted code writing is, but whatever, we'll put it in, and if somebody like official says we can't do it, then they'll have to move it. Where was the other one?
Under
Kathleen, you
F.
said under
Under
F.
F. And I emailed a couple examples. I don't know if we might have to have someone else draw it so that it's actually ours and we're not copying and pasting it out of another code.
They probably copied and pasted from somebody else's code.
Right. Okay, so we're adding pictures there. Okay, so back to the definitions. The height of the fences underneath G. Does it all read okay? G3 within the side yards from the rear of the building to the rear of the property, not to exceed 6 feet. Maria, I answered your, where did those dots come from?
Yeah,
There was a note after that. It sort of disappeared in the past couple of days.
okay, so I would take it out.
Right. So these come out. Yeah, I went back and looked at some of the other versions. Okay, so we're adding pictures there. Okay, Dave, we're up
So
to, I'm
you
having
just-
second thoughts.
Sorry, within the rear yard, you need to do an enter. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna highlight this again so that we. Dave, we're back to your comment about having second thoughts about 8 feet deer fences in the front. Can we discuss this again?
Delete.
Height of deer fencing. Go ahead,
We're
Dave.
taking it out. So, oh, that's the deer fence. Sorry, I thought we were hedges. Sorry,
No.
confused.
Deer fences, you want to take it out of the front?
I think we should, but that's up to everyone. I think we should.
What's the goal here, Dave?
I just think having an 8-foot fence in front of most of the properties I can think of wouldn't look that attractive.
So you're saying allow them in the side and rear yards, but not the front.
Right, yes.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
I'd rather keep them, but that's only because I just planted some cherry trees. So,
I mean,
we don't have to make a law centered around my cherry trees, but you know, they're
Can you
not.
put something other than like a big deer fence across the front? Can you
Mhm.
put like some kind of netting around the tree to protect it rather than across the whole front of your property?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it would be temporary, like just around that small area. So I don't know where that falls, and I don't know if other people have that issue or not. If it's just me, I can certainly look into other solutions.
Well, that seems to be a distinction, right? Between a temporary fence on a young planting versus a permanent installation of an
Right.
8-foot fence.
But we
If-
didn't do-
If you're protecting your plant or tree, I don't think anyone's going to be upset with that. And I don't think it's the same thing as a deer fence. When I think of deer fence, it's like surrounding your property, stopping deer from coming into the whole area.
So-
Oh, I see, like a whole
protecting your
perimeter
tree.
fence. Okay.
So I was confused when we talked about it last time because I was imagining the temporary stuff people put up and I couldn't understand why we were trying to restrict that. But now I got it.
So it's like with permanent fence poles, that kind of deer fencing.
Yeah, we defined it up above as, what did we define it as?
Do we need the word permanent in the
Fence
description?
composed of posts and plastic or metal mesh. In the definition, do we need it to say permanent or not?
Yeah, maybe of yeah, permanent fence composed of posts, because posts, you know, I guess it's distinct from stakes. I don't know. I don't know all the fence terminology.
I don't think we have to have permanent. I think that what like Heidi wants to do is fine. I don't think that's a deer. Well, unless people are confused, I don't think they will be. But
Well, the permanent and temporary make it distinct.
Yeah.
you could put a
How
temporary,
long is temporary?
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
And if you put the green, posts in the ground, they're probably not going to pull them up right away. So they can stay there for the whole summer or the whole season for sure. Besides winter.
Why don't we see what the public has to say?
Okay.
So we're
Leave
going
it
back
the way
down.
it is and go with that. I don't think anybody talked to the law enforcement person also.
So we're taking out in H down the bottom here. Let me see, where are we? 42-3H, we're taking out the front, right? So height of deer fencing shall not exceed 8 feet and may be installed
Inside and rear yard.
side and rear yard. Just side and rear yard. Okay, I'm just gonna reword this a bit, taking out front. Deer fencing shall not be exceed 8 feet. Here, whoops. Okay, deer fencing may be installed in side and rear yards. Okay,
Make it a plural, Fran. Make yard plural.
yes, ma'am. Got it. Okay. Let me see, where are we? Okay, height of deer fencing in the front yard, you're right, we could just leave it out and expand the section saying if constructed. Reading your notes, Dave. Deer fencing may be installed, okay. If the front yard fence is a wall, this would not apply. Is any of this? Okay, so we're not putting the deer fencing in the front yard, so this is all clear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're back to the replacements. Any replacement of pre-existing non-conforming fences shall comply with this chapter.
I think we kind of settled on that, didn't we?
I think we cleaned it up, so I think, is that okay?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you took
I
out,
just-
took out repair.
Just capitalize the C in chapter, please.
End of the sentence.
Okay. Repair and restoration. Town of Bedford. Okay, the limit on the length of rear yard fences, that's gone, right? Review further C4H. Okay, so that is all gone.
K is in red if you want to change that.
I like red. How did it get to be red? That's a difficult one, seriously.
Okay. Sorry. Always difficult.
There it goes. I think I
Now
got
they're
it.
all red. There we go.
Yeah, probably. Okay, so we just have to add some pictures. We got to take out hedges, and rework the chapter so that hedges doesn't mess things up. Okay, notes. Okay, and that takes care of fences.
No,
No?
no. Variances.
All right,
Oh, right.
The discussion was to move this
Thank you.
back into chapter 134.
right.
And that way zoning has the authority to, or to issue variances. Fran, you pointed out that swimming pools has a section which permits the zoning board of appeals to issue variances. I
Right.
sent you around today Originally, chapter 114 had the village board as responsible for issuing variances for swimming pools. John pointed out that is probably not something that the village board of trustees wants to do. He suggested changing swimming pools to be a zoning board, a ZBA authority, because of the nature of a variance or lack of a variance for swimming pools. People would not have the ability to, and I sent you the wording. So the question, it seems to me that the wording that is in chapter 114, swimming pools, does not apply to fences. That's my opinion. So I would recommend moving this back into chapter 134.
I don't see why we can't have that it's under their jurisdiction somehow in the chapter, just keep it fences, and then you know it's there, and it's something that has been, that plagues the village and constantly we're dealing with, and it'll be very clear in its own chapter, whereas you're gonna have to go zoning. If I was looking for fences, I wouldn't look in zoning.
Okay, it's been there since God was a kid. So people know where to find it. If you take a look at the email that I sent today.
I'm reading it now, and I was actually not clear what, if you were trying to advocate for it or against it, but now you're saying you're recommending not to use that as an example for the fence section.
Yes, if you read through the wording in 114, and I can't find it right now. Kathleen, can you read that?
The Board of Trustees reserves the right to vary or modify any of the aforesaid regulations under Chapter 114-4, where it finds, after written request from the owner, that there are unusual circumstances resulting in practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship, which would deprive the owner of reasonable use of his or her land, and where the Board of Trustees further finds that the situation does not require the strict application of this chapter, and that the variance granted will result in preserving the spirit of this chapter as well as securing the safety, health, and general welfare of the village.
So if you go back to the reasons why a variance would be granted in that statement, those conditions, in my opinion, do not apply to fences.
So why can't you have I don't think we want to be doing fences or pools either. I think that we want the zoning board doing them. So what could you not say? The right to vary or modify any of the aforesaid regulations under whatever the number is, 42, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what the right language is, but is the purview of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
The zone, if the Zoning Board of Appeals has this under their responsibility for not the reasons that it deprives the owner of the property of the right to use their property. I mean, that doesn't make any sense with fences.
Oh, that's why I'm saying can it just be a simple statement and not go on with the rest of that related to takings?
Because it is the reason why the authority was granted.
And what was the other, I thought that someone the other day found an example of how within 134, there is already an example of a reference out to another chapter. Was that pools?
Swimming pools. It's swimming
pools. Okay, sorry.
But the swimming pool says the Zoning Board of Appeals reserves the right to vary or modify any of the aforesaid regulations where it finds, after written request from the owner, there are an unusual circumstance resulting in practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship. So it could be practical difficulty. If zoning isn't the place for it, then why would we put it in zoning? I mean, if you can't write something similar to this, which is 114-14, which brings you back to zoning, then why would you put it in zoning if it doesn't belong in zoning?
It does belong in zoning.
Then why can't we put a reference to it from here to go to zoning, or that zoning is the one that has the right?
But zoning has that right in 114 because of the practical difficulties that prevent the homeowner or the property owner from utilizing their property. That does not, in my opinion, that does not apply to fences. What variance would you see?
But then why would we put it there? Why would you put it in something if you can't get a variance for it in ZBA, which is zoning board, Board of Appeals, which is appealing variances? No?
So
Appealing code, right?
yeah, so no, it's not appealing code. It's appealing the zoning. It's
Sorry.
the zoning board of
Code.
appeals.
Yes.
So I would move this, my recommendation is to move this back into zoning.
But this doesn't have anything to do with fences, you just said. It doesn't make sense. I mean, to me, I can't figure it out. You're saying that zoning would not apply to fences because of the hardship or whatever. And so that's why it shouldn't be by itself. But now you're saying put it back in zoning or ZBA, which you're saying it shouldn't be in to start with.
No.
They shouldn't have purview over that.
The ZBA always has had the authority to issue variances for fences. So let me ask.
Why can't we put it back in there then? Why can't we put a reference to that? If they've always had the right to hear, a variance on this or a request for a variance, then why can't we just put a reference to the zoning board?
The reasons that you do that are because of hardship in the use of the property owner. Now, but here's my question. What do you think a person will come along and ask for a variance from 42?
I think they'll say, I want to put a 6-foot fence on my side yard because it's right next to a school, or it's right next to a corner, whatever.
Or I want a variance from the requirement that my rear yard, which backs against the street, must follow the front yard requirement. I want a variance from that. That's a reasonable thing that someone might ask under the new code, under the new fence.
Now, so my argument is that those variances are not do not prohibit the property owner from the use of their property, which is the reason why you would state in here that this is something that the zoning board of appeals would hear.
But when fences was in 134 before, the zoning board of appeals had all that authority to listen to whatever request for variance. So I don't get, it was there, we just pulled it out and was still giving the ZBA the same authority they had before. We're not changing it.
And in my opinion, the way you do that, the reason you do that is because this chapter prohibits someone from the reasonable use of their land. You say, this chapter, which is fences, prevents me from something that is a reasonable use of my land. And therefore, the zoning board of appeals should be able to hear my request. And it just doesn't pass that test in my mind. This is not a request for variance for a fence is not a prohibition from the reasonable use of my land.
But it was before, when it was in 134, it's the same request for variance.
Yes.
It was still not.
That's why Maria is advocating to put it back in 134.
Yes. Thank you.
I know, but I don't.
You're saying that's not really, that you don't feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying that a fence there shouldn't be a variance given because you're not denying someone of a property right. And
no,
but
no.
Yet we're going to put it back in under the ZBA who has that authority. And why is it there then?
Sorry, that's not what I was saying.
Okay.
What I was saying that the reason that you put in this chapter that the zoning board of appeals has the authority to hear your cases is because this chapter prevents you or prohibits you from the lawful and complete use of your land. It doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't pass that test.
Where does it say? Where are we saying that, or what other reason? Is that the reason why anything would be given a variance? What you just, the way you defined it, isn't that the way, what's the difference between that and something else? Or I'm just not following.
Can we vote on it?
No,
Well,
no,
it
this is
may
a
be-
matter of law. No, this
Yeah.
is not a vote.
It may be, I'm going to ask a question and see if this helps. The options here seem to be to find a way to comfortably move this chapter, this section, this topic back into the larger chapter of 134. That comma, that is problematic because of separate definitions, et cetera, which is why you moved it out. That's one option. The other option potentially is that this paragraph that you've pointed to about pools
Mhm.
isn't the right language for the reasons you are describing, Marie. But have we asked the question, is there another way that a standalone chapter on fences could be kept under the purview of the zoning board, but not with this paragraph? Because it's clear that this paragraph does not work.
So to answer the first question that you posed, I don't know that any of the definitions in chapter 42 conflict with any definitions in chapter 134. In fact, the side yard, rear yard, whatever, I lifted them from 134.
Mhm.
So I don't know that any of the definitions here are in conflict with 134.
I thought that I remembered folks wanting to pull it out of 134 because there was so much, there was such dense communication happening in this chapter, and because it required a specialized set of definitions that were unique to this chunk of text. That sounded like why you wanted to pull it out of 134 in the first place.
I think
No.
if I remember correctly, when it was in 134, we had fences in every zone. Unless I'm totally wrong. So you had fences in, the R1 and the R3 and there was something about fences in each of those zones,
No.
unless I'm totally wrong.
Okay.
I think you're wrong in that. There,
Okay.
census were in, I think, 134.16 and 134.17, but they are not in every single zone.
And so,
Okay.
you pulled it out as a way of making it clear and accessible.
Dave as Dave said earlier tonight, if he was looking for fences, he wouldn't know where to find it. And so having it as a standalone chapter makes it easier to find.
Okay. And so
In Dave's opinion, it makes
Okay.
it easier to find.
I agree with him only because from a functioning board perspective, like the thing that boards deal with, fences are among the top issues that come forward. And I don't know that if we can make it easier for someone to find the code on fence, that seems like a good idea. But
So let me counter argue that. If fences are one of the top issues that come before the ZBA, people have found the fence definition and the fence rules in chapter 134.
that's a reasonable argument.
Now, although there have been many requests to the ZBA for variances for fences, it's always height. And I would say that 80%, if not more, of those requests are denied based upon the height that's currently in chapter 134.
And
And
how many are brought to them because of violation, and because people don't know what they're supposed to do because they can't find it in a chapter or it's not anywhere, and they build a fence that's 6 foot high on Furnace Street, for example, and then have to take it down.
I would say that while I was chair of the ZBA, never.
Well, it might not go to the ZBA, it might go to the building inspector. They
That's
might not go for a variance.
Still
That's
trying
possible.
to find it in the
I
old
just don't
version.
It just seems, I don't know, there seems to be a resistance to making this user friendly. If you want to bury it somewhere, then bury it. I'm not going to argue the rest of the night away, or let's take a vote on it. I think there's a way. If you take out hardship and deprive the owner of reasonable use of their land, why can't we reserve the right to modify, or the zoning board does?
Well, it just seems like there must be a mechanism
Definitely. If
that
you
that
wanted to-
is different than this paragraph about pools that makes it that makes us able to have this chapter under the ZBA's purview. Obviously this paragraph doesn't work, so maybe we need to look for a different mechanism that allows it to sit separately but be within the purview of the ZBA.
Can we-
I will investigate that.
Can we reverse it and on the fence chapter 42-4 where it says enforcement? The Village of Cold Spring Code Enforcement Officer will enforce the provisions of this chapter. Can we add there, in the case of a request for variance, the Zoning Board of Appeals has authority on this?
That's what I was trying to say
Same
earlier.
problem.
Is it a legal question that needs to go to John?
In
Because
my mind, it is a legal question.
So then
I
let's
think
ask the
it's a
question.
matter of wording and directing and using the right wording. And if where there's a will, there's a way.
I don't know enough about, the legality of how to put this, but maybe we should ask John or Ted.
And two, I want to go back now. When I was reading fence codes, standalone codes in other towns, I was reading for definitions and I was reading for descriptions of heights. I wasn't thinking about how it lived in relation to the ZBA. So I'd like to go back and look at Bedford and look at Rhinebeck and look at, I can't remember what the other one was that I was looking at, and see how it is addressed there. Because we can't be the first municipality that wants a standalone fence code that is under the jurisdiction of the ZBA.
I don't think from my memory, and I might have went back and looked at a lot of codes. I don't remember any of them referring to the ZBA or actually anything about variances. They basically had the chapter stated what was allowed and that was it.
So the way this is, if we don't connect it to the Z, and the code enforcement officer has the authority to say, yes, you can add a 6-foot fence because your neighbor has a wild dog or something. Does the code enforcement officer have that authority?
No,
They enforce.
They enforce the code, period, end of story. Okay. So there needs to be some way that somebody can get a variance on this. Okay.
I think the number of variances that are going to be needed are going to be greatly reduced by the effort we've made to craft the regulations of this chapter. So it's probably not going to be the same kind of problem going forward, but still there should be a mechanism. There should be a variance
there needs
mechanism.
to be a way. Okay, so if we were to put it
yeah,
back, Marie.
Kathleen,
Go ahead, Marie.
so Kathleen, it's in 134.16. E, standards applicable to all special uses. And specifically in 134.17 D, exceptions to yard requirements. Here, the exceptions to yard requirements, it specifically addresses setbacks. But anyway, that's where it's found in 16 and 17. I will check with, I will check to see what's reasonable.
I sent John both, and I think both of us have sent John stuff and he hasn't replied.
Yeah, I didn't say I was going to talk to John.
Oh, okay. Who are we talking to?
We can use NICOM too, who's always a good source if we need to. Okay, other than that, the next chapter is buildings. We have 10 minutes. Do we want to shut it down or we want to look at buildings?
I think let's not start a new topic with 10 minutes left myself.
I'll second that.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
I will second that also. All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Night,
Good
everybody.
night, all.
Right.
Good night, all. Good night, Michael.